Hi, everybody, and welcome. I am more than happy to introduce to you our monthly November meeting. But first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Ingrid Surratt. I am the president of the CAPS Board of Directors. And it is my honor to welcome you today and to present our program for this month. But first, I have a few announcements. In the first place, we had in October for our membership a happy hour. And in that happy hour, we generated some ideas from you about some future programs, which really sounded wonderful. And we are putting that in the works as we speak. But I did want to tell you that if you missed that meeting and you have any ideas about what you would like to hear about, see a particular presenter or anything like that, please contact us either at the CAPS office at 512-371-3373, or you can send us an email at capitalareaparkinsons.org and let us know what it is that you'd like to hear about. Also, on November 6th, we had our first virtual gala because we could not have our in-person gala, and it was very successful, and we had a great program, and I wanted to thank you for your participation and involvement in it. If for some reason you missed it, we do have the full recording of it now on our website. So all you have to do is go there and click on it, and you can see it in its entirety. One of the things that we were offering at the virtual gala was t-shirts, and those are still available on the website for purchase. Not only are they great looking and very comfy, but it's a great marketing tool for us to help spread the word about CAPS. So please consider that. So I wanted to wish you all a very happy and safe, by all means, precautionary Thanksgiving. We keep hearing about how important it is going to be to have these family gatherings done in a very safe way. So I want to make sure I echo that message. We all want to have fun and be together, but let's do that in as safe a way as possible. And remember, there is always something to be grateful for. So let's keep that in mind, even in this COVID-19 crisis. So I'm thrilled to announce to you today's program. It will be presented by Kimberly Tronolone, who is from the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And she will be giving us a research update from the Michael J. Fox Foundation. She actually joined only about a year ago in November of 2019 as an advancement officer. And before that, she was a development coordinator with the Endometriosis Foundation of America, also doing work in increasing community engagement and disease awareness. She earned her BA from Hampshire College in 2012 and a master's from the New School in 2016, specializing in nonprofit management. She was born and raised in Brooklyn, where she still lives with her husband, Sam. And I wanted to also tell you that at the end of the program, there is a really fun art kind of movement program being given by the Art Beat Dance Company. So I hope that you will stay for that and get up and move around and listen to some great music. So again, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and enjoy the program. Happy Thanksgiving and take care.
Oh, hi there. My name is Kimberly Tronolone, and I'm an advancement officer with the Michael J. Fox Foundation. I started the foundation just about a year ago, but the Fox Foundation's work has been important to me and my family for a very long time, as my grandfather is living with Parkinson's disease. So it's really special for me to get to work with the community. In my role on the advancement team, I travel throughout the state of Texas, meeting with our donors, Team Fox members, and people in the Parkinson's community, sharing updates on the latest in research and how you can get involved. So while I'm not able to meet with you all face-to-face at the moment, I very much appreciate the invite to provide this virtual update and share the latest from the Fox Foundation. During my presentation today, I'll give a brief overview of the Fox Foundation business model and how we've adapted to the COVID-19 pandemic. Then I'll dive into each of our research priority areas, highlight some exciting projects we're funding in each of these spaces, and close with ways to get involved. And just an important note, since this presentation is being recorded, all of the numbers discussed during this presentation, such as participant numbers, research study numbers, dollars given, and similar statistics are accurate as of Monday, November 9th, 2020. So if you're viewing this recording at a later date, please note that the numbers discussed may have changed. You can always find up-to-date information on michaeljfox.org. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. The Michael J. Fox Foundation launched in 2000, and since day one, the Fox Foundation has worked with a tremendous sense of urgency to find improved treatments and a cure for Parkinson's disease. Inspired by having our patient as a founder, we are a patient-centric organization. The Fox Foundation places the patient voice at the core of everything that we do, and the experiences and needs of the community shape our goals and drive research forward. Our strategy focuses on de-risking ideas with the greatest potential and moving them through the clinical pipeline. We don't shy away from promising high-risk ideas because we know they could have the potential to yield high rewards for the Parkinson's community. The Fox Foundation acts as a bridge, funding scientists' best ideas through early stage trials, helping them gather data and establish proof of concept, and then attract follow-on funding from pharma and biotech who can support the research in more costly clinical trials later on. To date, we have funded $1 billion in research projects, and I do like to point out that 32% of this research is led by researchers outside of the United States. We fund the most promising studies no matter where they're taking place around the world, and in fact, just last year alone, the Fox Foundation committed $1.6 million in research dollars in the state of Texas. Something that makes the Fox Foundation unique is that we have no endowment. So every year we start back at zero and work to raise the funds that drive research forward. An average of 88 cents of every single dollar donated to the foundation is spent on supporting Parkinson's research. So within 6 months of receiving a contribution, that money is out of the door, in the hands of researchers, and being put to work. Our funding program is milestone driven, and our team of 13 on-staff PhDs work hand in hand with 12 business strategists to ensure that our grantees are supported not only financially, but also intellectually and with the best tools so they can reach their milestones and receive the next disbursement of funding from the foundation. And if a grantee isn't able to reach the agreed upon milestones or not seeing a viable way forward, we can redirect funding allocated for that project to other research. And this allows us to be nimble and responsive to the field and efficiently use our donor dollar. There really is incredible momentum in the Parkinson's research field, and we want to ensure we move as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And speaking of momentum, we know that there are concerns about how much research can continue during the pandemic. The foundation has been doing our part to keep this vital research moving. We've spent the last few months doing our best to afford flexibility to our research grantees. We found that academic institutions were impacted the most with lab and facility closures, and we work together to relieve or postpone milestone obligations when possible. Internally at the foundation, we continue to move forward. We dedicated this spring and summer to keep application and proposal reviews on track so that we stand ready to align with reopenings as they take place around the world. Clinical trials were slowed, but are getting back to normal or modified operations. The innovations pursued during lockdown, such as adding telemedicine protocols to trials, will very likely continue to be a part of ongoing and future trials, which we think is a positive addition. There's also plenty of work that can continue without physically going into a lab. Earlier this year, shortly after we began working remotely, I connected with a member of our research team who oversees our genomics portfolio. They mentioned that all of the work being done in this particular portfolio is cloud-based. So it's actually been business as usual for those research teams and others who are doing cloud-based work. So even in the face of COVID-19, we've seen some exciting developments in the field. So now I'm going to jump into our research priorities and some of the latest advances we've seen in each area. So the Parkinson's research pipeline is as robust as it's ever been. In 2020, we've committed nearly $60 million through 170 research grants to researchers worldwide. Excuse me. Our symptomatic portfolio is made up of therapies that will ease people's Parkinson's symptoms. So while we always have our eyes on the prize, which is a cure, it's important for us to be advancing therapies that will improve people's quality of life as they live with Parkinson's right now. This research addresses motor symptoms like stiffness, slowness, tremor, and non-motor symptoms, which can include constipation, low blood pressure, mood and thinking changes, and sleep disruptions, among others. Next up is our disease-modifying portfolio, and this is really where the lion's share of our funding goes. These therapies seek to affect the underlying pathophysiology of the disease. So with this research, we're trying to learn and target the underlying biology and treat the root of the problem in an effort to slow disease progression or halt it altogether. We're also invested in addressing field-wide challenges that are barriers to the entire field moving forward. If we can lead the way in breaking down these barriers, everyone in the field will be able to advance just that much faster. The greatest need in the Parkinson's field right now is the identification of a biomarker, and this is where a lot of our efforts in this area are focused. First, let's jump into our symptomatic portfolio. In the past 5 years, we've seen 15 new drugs receive approval to help Parkinson's patients manage their symptoms. So as we just discussed, our greatest priority is finding therapies to slow or stop the disease. But we're also hard at work to help people who have Parkinson's have more tools in their toolkit when it comes to alleviating their symptoms. So 2 therapies that the Fox Foundation funded early on that have now come to market are Inbrija and Kinmobi. These are both therapies to address off episodes, and you'll see them highlighted in green in the slide. So an off episode means when Parkinson's symptoms return before it's time to take your next regularly scheduled dose of medication. We know that unpredictable off time can really impede quality of life, and so it was important for us to support therapies like Inbrija and Kinmobi to help patients have better control over off time. So what makes these therapies unique and is even more helpful is that they're both considered rescue methods, meaning that you take it when you start to feel your symptoms returning, and quickly, usually within 15 minutes, they should bring you back to an on state and carry you through until it's time to take your next scheduled medication dose. So Inbrija was approved by the FDA in 2018, and it's a levodopa compound delivered via an inhaler and absorbed through the lungs. It can be taken as needed when symptoms return up to 5 times per day in addition to regularly scheduled Parkinson's medications. It's similar to an asthma rescue inhaler for breathing problems. You'd keep it on hand and use it when necessary. So this slide highlights the Fox Foundation's de-risking strategy in action. We provided early funding, tools, and intellectual support to help Inbrija through the pipeline and into patients' hands. The other rescue method that I had mentioned was Kinmobi, which was just approved by the FDA this year in May 2020. Kinmobi is a dopamine agonist, which mimics dopamine, the brain chemical responsible for normal movement, which decreases in Parkinson's. So this medication is delivered via an under-the-tongue dissolvable strip, sort of like Listerine strips, if you've ever used those. Kinmobi is meant to be used as needed for off time up to 5 times per day in addition to scheduled Parkinson's medications. And these approvals are exciting for a few reasons. First, they're showing us at the Fox Foundation that our de-risking strategy is working and helping bring new therapies across the finish line. It's also exciting because it's 2 new therapies in the hands of patients. And with Kinmobi being approved in May, this shows that progress is continuing even in the face of the limitations that COVID-19 has put on research institutions. In addition to advances around managing off time, there also continue to be advances in the deep brain stimulation space. The Medtronic Precept PD deep brain stimulation with BrainSense was just approved this summer. It's the first DBS system approved with what they call BrainSense technology that senses and records brain signals for more personalized treatment. This signal data collected from BrainSense technology is sent to your clinicians so they can more precisely tailor therapy to the individual needs of each patient based on data from the neuronal activity. So the first US implant took place at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota in July, and implantation started in Europe pre-COVID-19. So speaking of DBS, we're always exploring non-pharmacological interventions to address Parkinson's symptoms. In particular, people who have Parkinson's, or many of them, experience freezing of gait, which is an inability to walk despite an intention to walk, and this can often lead to falling. And unfortunately, current drugs or pharmacological solutions rarely help with this problem. So we at the Fox Foundation recognize that gait imbalance is an under-addressed symptom that can have a huge impact on daily life. So we have funded over $3 million in research using technology to address this issue. And I'll share what some of these wearable tech aid devices are that are in clinical trials right now. So vibrating socks. This might sound silly, but it's actually very cool. A team in the Netherlands is using the vibration built into socks as a novel cueing device that gives stimuli to reduce freezing of gait in patients. So most cueing systems are visible and they may be socially unacceptable to patients, but the socks wouldn't be. So they might be a more useful solution to help with freezing. And I've actually seen video footage of patients using these socks. It's truly remarkable how their gait improves. So I'm very hopeful that this trial is successful and can help people with these symptoms. And there's actually footage of these socks in action along with other non-pharmacological interventions. They can be found in an Ask the PhD video on our website from August 19th of this year. There's also a team at the Virginia Commonwealth University looking at vibration devices that can be inserted into your shoe and offer a similar cueing solution. So there's a lot happening in the shoe and sock area to be excited about. In the middle there is a wearable airbag system, and it's another approach from a group coming out of the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab in Chicago. They're testing this smart wearable airbag system to prevent injury in Parkinson's patients who are at risk of falling. This system is discreet. Again, it can be worn under your clothes, and it's designed to accurately predict falls and quickly inflate to reduce fractures and other injuries. And if these therapies prove to be successful in trials, we hope they can come to market within the next 2 years to help address issues with gait imbalance and prevent falls. That's one of the things about these non-pharmacological interventions, is that they typically can come to market a bit more quickly than a pharmacological solution. And that last device on the end there is an exoskeleton that's being designed to help those a bit further in their Parkinson's journey, not as discreet as the first two, but close to coming to market, and something we're very excited about. So now we'll move on to our disease-modifying portfolio, which funds research of therapies seeking to slow, stop, or reverse the progression of Parkinson's disease. So some people here may be familiar with the term alpha-synuclein. For others, this may be completely new. But as a refresher or an intro, it is a protein that occurs naturally in all of us. We're not yet sure the role it plays in our body, but we do know that in almost all people with Parkinson's, alpha-synuclein misfolds and forms toxic clumps that we think contributes to dopamine cell death and Parkinson's disease. So for that reason, alpha-synuclein is a very important piece of the Parkinson's puzzle and a significant area of focus for the foundation. There are currently 13 therapies targeting alpha-synuclein in clinical trials. There are a few different approaches that researchers are taking to prevent or break up these alpha-synuclein clumps in the hopes that they will slow or stop disease progression. One approach, which is what the Austrian-based company Apheris is taking, is creating a vaccine. The Afirus treatment, called Afitope PD-01A, triggers the body to produce antibodies which may lower protein levels and protect cells. Essentially, they inject you with a synthetic piece of misfolded alpha-synuclein, and since this is foreign to your body, it triggers an immune response, creating antibodies that they hope will travel around the body, getting rid of these toxic clumps. This is very similar to what happens to you when you get your flu vaccine each year. PD-01A was the first alpha-synuclein therapy to move into clinical trials, which was enabled by Fox Foundation funding. We also supported studies that found additional doses of the therapy were safe and boosted alpha-synuclein antibody levels. So we know this vaccine approach is a promising one, but part of our strategy here at the Fox Foundation is that we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. So we're also funding research that seeks to solve the alpha-synuclein problem through other approaches, such as preventing alpha-synuclein clumping early on or improving the way these clumps are removed from the cells they could damage. You'll see here on the slide that we're also working with targets other than alpha-synuclein, including examining genetic targets like LRRK2 or LRRK2 and GBA. There are now 3 active clinical trials targeting LRRK2 and 5 targeting GBA. And I just want to emphasize that although a small percentage of people who develop Parkinson's directly from a genetic mutation, researchers are learning a lot from those individuals. Genes are like recipes that make cellular proteins. When researchers identify changes in a gene linked to Parkinson's, they develop a strategy to learn as much as possible about the gene, the protein it makes, and the pathways it works in. Scientists make research tools to investigate the gene and its protein. They look for ways to measure protein activity. They recruit people with the mutation to learn more about its biology and its clinical appearance. And all of these steps lead them toward discovering drug targets, and testing new therapies that could help people with Parkinson's. This happened when we discovered a mutation in alpha-synuclein back in 1997, and now we see that while only a very, very small percentage of people have this mutation, what we've learned from studying it has unlocked so much information about the disease that now we have 13 therapies in the clinic that could help everyone living with Parkinson's. And our final priority area for the foundation is addressing field-wide challenges. We see it as our role in leading the field to break down barriers that are holding Parkinson's research back. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest challenges in the field today is the lack of a biomarker. So in line with the Fox Foundation's efforts to support collaboration amongst researchers and industry, PPMI data is available for download and use by approved parties. So just to go through, the Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative is what PPMI stands for, and we'll get into that in just a sec. But a biomarker is a biological characteristic that we can objectively measure to tell us about Parkinson's risk, onset, progression, and if a therapy is working. An example of a biomarker assessment in action that we're all familiar with is an at-home pregnancy test, which measures levels of certain hormones in urine to assess if someone is pregnant or not. Right now, we don't have an objective measure of Parkinson's risk, onset, or progression. And I'm sure many of you who are viewing this can attest that just measuring symptoms office can be quite subjective. It can be hard to get a diagnosis and not give an accurate snapshot of progression. So this need for biomarkers is why the foundation launched the Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative, PPMI, which is a landmark observational clinical study to comprehensively collect data from people with Parkinson's, people who we believe are at risk of developing Parkinson's, and healthy controls using advanced imaging, biologic sampling, and clinical and behavioral assessments. And one PPMI trial site is actually right in your backyard at Baylor College of Medicine. So since the study's launch in 2012, it has built the most robust data set and biosample library in the history of Parkinson's research. It now houses de-identified data from brain scans like MRI and DAT scans, biosample analysis such as spinal fluid protein levels, and intensive omics investigations such as whole genome and RNA sequencing from about 1,500 volunteers. And this is available to researchers in an open access model and has been downloaded by researchers over 6 million times since the study's launch in 2010. So even during the pandemic, scientists have been able to continue to analyze PPMI data for new insights into Parkinson's onset and progression. One example of a recent learning that's come from PPMI data is that we've come closer to finding a potential blood test to measure Parkinson's progression. So a researcher at the University Medical Center in Göttingen in Germany led a study that analyzed levels of neurofilament light chain, or NFL, a protein released when brain cells are damaged. Her team assessed NFL in blood collected over 5 years from PPMI participants with Parkinson's or with Parkinson's risk factors, as well as control volunteers. Participants with Parkinson's and with risk factors had significantly higher NFL levels than control participants. And the protein levels increased over time and correlated with motor symptoms. So scientists are conducting further analysis and may be able to use NFL levels from blood samples to measure progression in Parkinson's. And while this is just one example, when you think about how many times scientists have downloaded this information and are using it to advance our knowledge around biomarkers, these small learnings add up and are quickly being incorporated into research and improving our understanding of who to recruit and how we test potential therapies in clinical trials. And since PPMI has shown to be so successful and had such a huge impact on the field, we're relaunching the study to grow our data collection efforts. So in 2021, PPMI is preparing for a profound expansion. We'll be nearly tripling enrollment to 4,000 individuals. We'll be adding 17 more centers and increasing site partners to 50 in 12 different countries. So this biological data that we glean from PPMI is so incredibly valuable, and we're so thrilled that Texas has helped contribute to this valuable data set since day one. But we've learned more and more that patient-reported outcomes are also key to research. And we know that pairing biological data with these patient-reported outcomes helps inform the direction research is headed and where the Fox Foundation's support would be the most valuable. So the need for patient-reported outcomes led us to develop the online clinical trial Fox Insight. Fox Insight is an online study that provides an opportunity for people with Parkinson's disease and their loved ones to get directly involved with research from the comfort of their own home. Participants consent to participate and then are prompted to fill out an online survey every 90 days to help paint a picture of what living with Parkinson's or caring for someone with Parkinson's disease is like, and contribute towards surveys that are informing research that's happening around the country. So about 75% of participants are people with Parkinson's, and the remaining 25% are control volunteers. And you can see on the slide there are now nearly 50,000 Fox Insight volunteers enrolled, and 2,475 of these participants are living in Texas. So thank you, Texas. It really is such a valuable platform for collecting information about the lived experience with Parkinson's. And actually, just in April, the foundation deployed a first-of-its-kind survey to assess the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the Parkinson's community through Fox Insight. So in just 31 days, the survey received an incredible 7,209 responses from people with and without Parkinson's. And results showed that people with Parkinson's who did and did not have COVID-19 were impacted by the pandemic in numerous ways. Both of these groups experienced new or worsening motor and non-motor symptoms with significant changes related to tremor, sleep, and anxiety. And about 62% of respondents with Parkinson's reported an issue accessing healthcare. So these findings will help us advocate for improved access to care on behalf of the Parkinson's community, and they could help clinicians understand more about patient needs during the pandemic and provide better care. So for more info on these results, I encourage you all to check out our third Thursday webinar that took place on July 16th. If you go to, again, the Fox Foundation's website. We have a webinar library, and the July 16th webinar features a panel of researchers who really dive deep into the Fox Insight COVID-19 study results. It's really interesting. So Fox Insight is not the only way that the Fox Foundation helps connect our community with research participation opportunities. Our Fox Trial Finder tool helps get people connected with local research studies. So one huge barrier to advancing research is simply a lack of trial participants. We can have the best therapies in the pipeline, but without people willing to participate in trials, that research can't advance. And this is why we created Fox Trial Finder, our online clinical trial matching tool where you can search to find studies looking for volunteers like you and be in touch with the investigator to learn more or just to see what research is happening in your area. So Fox Trial Finder features interventional trials as well as a variety of non-interventional trials that don't involve taking a new drug or changing your current medication regimen. And with that said, one recently completed study that didn't involve therapeutic intervention that I thought I'd highlight is called Fostering Inclusivity and Research Engagement for Underrepresented Populations in Parkinson's Disease, or FIRE-UP PD for short. This initiative was started in 2019 and was led by Dr. Jonathan Jackson. He's the founder and executive director of the Community Access, Recruitment, and Engagement Research Center at Mass General, to learn how we can engage underrepresented populations in Parkinson's research and really close that research gap. So in order to understand and treat Parkinson's, we need to include the variety and diversity of people living with the disease in clinical trials. And right now, the majority of research participants are white males, which just isn't going to give us a complete look at the Parkinson's picture and could even deepen health disparities. So what we've learned from both the interventional and control sites was that including opportunities for research participation as normal workflow with all patients in clinical care led to more diverse recruitment for research participation. So these insights are now informing and shaping our phase 2 plans for FIRE-UP PD to continue to standardize and scale interventions that will help diversify Parkinson's disease clinical trials. So, you know, people often think of our work as funding therapies, which is certainly a big part of it. We've talked about those today, but FIRE-UP PD is a great example of the behind the scenes work we also focus on. It's just another way the Fox Foundation is trying to improve the field and build a better platform for better science, similar to the work we're doing in looking for a biomarker. So as we wrap up here, we have quite a few ways to get involved and some resources we'd love to highlight. So I've already told you all about Fox Insight and Fox Trial Finder, and those are both such great ways to get with research efforts. Those are programs maybe you're already enrolled in, or you're just looking for a different way to join the Fox Foundation community. We certainly have some more options. You can get involved in Parkinson's advocacy work. The Fox Foundation's public policy team works with individuals on both sides of the aisle to support policies that help people with Parkinson's. You can check out our webinar from July 22nd of this year. It serves as an excellent advocacy training session if this sounds interesting or exciting to you. You can also get involved with or set up a Team Fox event. Team Fox is our grassroots fundraising community, and 100% of the proceeds raised by our Team Fox members goes to research. And in fact, since 2006, Team Fox members have raised nearly $90 million, all going straight to research. So a round of applause for them. And if you're out there watching and you're a Team Fox member, thank you very much. And finally, we'd like to encourage you to check out our Third Thursday webinars. I've mentioned a few during this presentation. They're live every third Thursday of the month, but they're all recorded, so we have a nice big library of interesting webinars to explore. We also would encourage you to check out our Ask the MD blog that's written by our on-staff movement disorder specialist, Dr. Rachel Dolan, and of course podcasts where we have expert interviews on life with Parkinson's and the latest in Parkinson's research and science. So with that, I will say thank you so much. Here on the final slide is my email address. If you have any questions about the research discussed today, or simply how to get involved, please do not hesitate to reach out. And thank you again so much for your time. I hope to hear from you soon.